Welcome to the Third Touch Soccer Podcast. My name's Sam Leamy. I'm here with Connor Walsh, and we are missing someone today.
Yeah, Uncle Mike's phone's off, lost in the big city.
But we also have gained someone today. We have a returning guest.
Friend of the program.
He is back from episode 14. February 12th was the last time you were on, introducing Poul Wheatley over the shores in England. How's it going, Paul?
Thank you very much, guys. I'm still at large. Thank you for having me back on.
Absolutely.
You're a British correspondent.
Absolutely. So, I mean, we've got a lot to catch up on. I mean, what have you been up to these last 6 months?
What have I done? I got married. Does that count?
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Thank you very much. On a football podcast, I've been playing twice a week. Still.
That's good.
At the grand old age of 35.
You're looking good.
Well,
you're looking fresh.
Well, indeed. It's very nice. Very nice of you to say. Things have been ticking over.
Yeah. I mean, I was there for your wedding. It was a beautiful wedding. You've just got back from your 2-month honeymoon. How was that? Where'd you go?
2 months?
So no. I wish, mate. Honestly.
So basically, in England, holiday you can get, what was it? Minimum of 4 weeks per year. Any job.
So I'd say rock bottom. You're talking 20 days holiday a year, which is, in 5-day blocks is, like you say, 4 weeks. Usually you're talking 25.
Jesus. So you used pretty much all this holiday time this year on this vacation, on this holiday?
Yeah. So we took 16 of those days. So we had a prep day on the Friday to go to the barn and decorate the thing for the wedding. And then we took the following 3 weeks and we went to Borneo.
Where is Borneo for? I mean, Americans don't really travel.
So Borneo is on the tip of Malaysia,
right.
and is kind of home of the orangutans. Okay, it's right down.
Big orangutan guy. You are.
I'm
Did you do some monkeying around down in Malaysia?
Oh, you guys! As you know, I'm a big orangutan guy. I think I said that on the last podcast, didn't I? No, I didn't mention it then.
Well, anyway, I am.
Yeah. And so we went down there and we went to Singapore for the last 4 nights. On the way back, broke up the enormous flight, and that's the story of that. That was 2-3 weeks ago now. I can barely remember it. I'm back at work, weeping daily. I'm looking forward to coming home every night.
Good. I mean, like I said, it's been 6 months since you've been on, so around February, Chelsea have won the Premier League since then. We're going to talk about, I mean, this is a Premier League preview podcast that we're going to talk about, but before we go into that, I mean, there's been plenty that's happened in the last 6 months. Fortunately, not much England activity, which we're going to steer away from in this podcast, but Connor's going to break down, thank the Lord, but Connor's going to break down week 22. I don't know if you've been following the MLS, Paul, this summer, but it's week 22 in the MLS. Yankee Stadium was sold out. This is 46,000.
It was 30. It was 30. It was 33,000.
It was 33. It was
sold. They said it was sold out, but the whole top of the stadium was empty. But regardless, it was definitely the biggest crowd they've had this year.
That's good.
Yeah, New York City FC, the Man City team against New York Red Bulls, which is over the river. They call it the Hudson River Derby. There has been violence on the subways in New York City in previous encounters, but it was a great game. But over to you, Connor, for MLS week 22.
Week 22, weekend of upsets, but I got some news to start off. It was the first weekend of VAR.
VAR, dude.
Yeah, VAR, dude.
You heard about VAR, dude?
You know about VAR, Paul? VAR, dude. No, but it was the first weekend of VAR. A few instances, one in the FC Dallas-Philadelphia game where the keeper pretty much got kicked in the nuts, right?
Yeah, he came out, I think Philadelphia 3-0 up. Dallas
John McCarthy, by the way, the homie John McCarthy.
Dallas came through on goal. Keeper saved it. The ball ricocheted out, and he kind of stretched for the ball again, but it fell to another player. He slotted it in. The keeper's, on the ground, clenching his Johnson, and the referee went to he signaled the square box that's the referee assistant technology, and they called it back. I don't see that a professional player is intentionally gonna kick another player in the ball
Unless
sack.
you're Nigel de Jong, maybe.
True.
Yeah, true.
I don't see if that's possible. A lot of other pundits have agreed with the decision. I mean, it just took a few minutes. I mean, we'll talk about what you think of VAR in a minute because it's going to be introduced in the FA Cup third round. But I don't know. I think it's brand new. There needs some tweaks, definitely, in the system.
There was one very good use of it in the LA Galaxy Portland Timbers game. Giassi Zardes did the most Giassi Zardes thing he's done yet, and he had a tap-in header, and he put his hands up in front of his face and like volleyball spiked it in, and they called it back. It was overturned, and both managers were happy. Even Ziggy Schmid, manager LA Galaxy, said that it was the right call and it was a good instance of it, but very frustrating to see Zardes do that, a national team player who it was literally an easy tap-in, but he spiked the ball, and it was odd to see. But so there was a good instance of it. I'm sure we'll see more to come, more controversy. Howard Webb was on the Howard Webb, former English ref, famous English ref, is now heading this program for the MLS, and he was on the MLS podcast this week, and I was listening to it, and he was talking about how he thinks it'll be good and it'll change the game for the positive. I tend to disagree, but I think if anyone is going to be running this program, he's probably the most qualified individual.
Well, before you go on to the other games, what's your first thoughts about this video assistant referee, Paul? We saw it at the Confederations Cup. This is the first competitive league, is it? The MLS? They're using it in the second half of the season. So they didn't use it for the first whole half of the season. They've just decided to trial it with the second half of the season, which is kind of controversial because you have that first few weeks of the season and
first few months,
and it's going to contradict a lot of the decisions that are going to happen in this second half of the season. What's your first initial thoughts?
Initial thoughts on bringing it in halfway doesn't seem terribly fair, does it?
Yeah. Well, it is,
to be honest. If you're looking back on some pretty rotten decisions you've had, but that aside, it's a time issue, isn't it? It's always a timing issue with these things. How quick can we do it? How fast can you turn the thing around? If it takes 30 seconds, it's probably too long, If it takes... It's got to be as instant as possible so you aren't sort of hanging around twiddling your thumbs, because then the game's dead. How many of these are you like to have? Is it? I mean, what are the rules? Can you call it off? What is it? A team calling it? Was it a ref calling it? Who has the control?
Well, he has an earpiece, and there's like a fourth official up in the stands watching replays, and he'll notify the referee if there's an incident that looks a little bit off, like an offside, a foul, build up, a handball. So if the referee will give the goal, he'll get like a little buzz in his ear, go, you need to check this, you want to check it. It's not the decision, but he'll signal to review it, and there's a little monitor at the side of the field, so he runs over and checks it and then gives his own opinion after that.
So he runs over to a monitor, physically runs over to a monitor,
yes.
Which is completely ludicrous, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it's literally...
To be honest.
It's a TV set up on the side of the field, more or less.
And he's at whose whim to do this? Has he got the power to say, I don't think I'm going to bother, thanks though?
I don't know if there's like a level. It's like, okay, the probability of you calling it a no-goal is pretty high, so you should check it, or it's 50-50, why should I waste my time? I don't know the specifics of that. It's a brand new system, and it definitely needs tweaking. We saw it in the Confederations Cup. I don't know how much you watched the Confederations Cup. I mean, you're on your honeymoon for those 4 months.
Yeah, no. But I read about there was a lot of outrage, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Well, it
sounded quite farcical.
They did a pretty terrible job with it, the Confederations Cup, because there was calls that even after VAR were clearly the wrong decision was made even after watching the video, which is just it's honestly pretty inexcusable. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, we just spoke about that. I mean, the referees are under enough pressure as it is to make the right call, and if they make the wrong call after reviewing technology in high definition in 4K resolution, what kind of pressures are they going to be under then? You're going to have a series of referees going into deep depression, quitting the game. We still need a game. We need referees, and they need to be paid well. And I mean, my always thought about this video assistant referee, I'm always dead against it. I like the ball crossing the line, but I just feel you take that supporters element away from the game. You know, I will always grow up, I mean, call me old fashioned, but going down to the pub, you know, going to the pub with you guys, having a beer and, you know, taking the piss out of other fans that decisions have gone against them. I always like
Absolutely.
that kind of banter.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's what it is, really, isn't it? It's kind of like, it's the only reason to do it. It's like sour grapes technology, isn't it? It's so that somebody can't look back and go, well, we were ripped off there. We were mugged there, you know. That's all it is.
Skank.
It doesn't add anything to the game.
Say.
Yeah, it doesn't add any fun, does it?
Yeah.
At all. Doesn't add any charm to the game, doesn't add any sort of, you know, extra dimension. It just slows it down, and it just takes it takes some of the action, it takes some of the excitement out of the game. That's what it does.
I saw a highlight on like Reddit or Twitter. I forgot what league it was. It was a smaller European league. It may have been like a second division of, say, Belgium or whatever. It was a small league. It was barely on the stands. But there was an instance where there was a penalty shout at the one end, right? The goalie gets the ball, immediately throws it out. They play on, penalty not called. They go on to score a goal. After they score their goal, it's brought back, and they're taking a penalty at the other end. And to be honest, I didn't look into it well enough to see if the goal that was scored
There's
stood.
no way.
Probably not, right?
There's no way.
But that's, you know, that is like, it's just, that can't happen. They have to iron out those wrinkles in it, because that is so unfair to the one team and supporters, and it just looks so poorly on the officiating and just the whole video refereeing system as a whole. And it's gonna be interesting to see how it pans out. I think that there's definitely some trial and error. I'm sure going into next season, MLS will switch things up. One thing I actually wanted to talk about, Paul, get your take on this. During the MLS All-Star Game, the refs were wearing cameras on their head. It was called Ref Cam, and they would switch over to it and replays to see like the ref's perspective. And I don't know about Sam, but it was awesome. And especially, like, I've seen it in rugby. The refs are mic'd up with the camera.
Yeah.
This was like that because, you know, there's like, it was Real Madrid versus the MLS All-Stars. You're seeing like Isco like dice up like 2 or 3 players, get a shot on goal, and the ref has like the best view in the whole stadium for it. So I really enjoyed that, and I think that for the MLS, they're obviously going to be at the forefront of technology if they've been the first league to implement VAR. They should implement that, and that will only start a domino effect, I think, with other leagues adding that.
I mean, sorry, carry on, Paul.
Yeah, but if they did that, I mean, that's a great that instead of the whole VAR thing, wouldn't that just be a great compromise if people understood a bit better on the referee's perspective and how they saw it and where they were at the time? If you replayed that as part of the highlights package, and you would say people would have a lot more sympathy with such a difficult job. You would go, yeah, Christ, he was right on the money there, and he couldn't see it.
I don't think the average Joe supporter is going to make time to break down angles and have sympathy for a referee if decisions are going against his team. You're always going to be slightly biased for your team. Any decision that's happened in the game. You know, I'm sure there's Argentina fans in 1986 claiming it still wasn't handball. Even there's a frozen shot of a hand on a ball. You know, I mean, it's here in the MLS now. I know it's coming to the Bundesliga next season.
This season.
This season coming up. But it is going to be introduced in the FA Cup from the 3rd round onwards. Kind of against that, just coming into the third. I think it's a little bit unfair for the teams who are playing in it in the qualifying rounds in the first 2 rounds. What if there's decisions that are going against those teams? You know,
especially because those teams playing in the first rounds are the smaller of the clubs that have a chance to go on and make big money and, you know, have a classic FA Cup story. To have a lack of video review potentially prevent them from that. I think that is really unfair.
No, you're right. It's because I'm a firm believer that, you know, for every time some manager, you know, so-called manager, turns up on Match of the Day and says, or whatever highlights program you're watching says, "Oh, we were absolutely mugged today. I can't believe it." There is at least 5 or 6 other occasions across the season where he got away with murder. Yeah, I'm a firm believer in that. You know, every manager in an entire career has probably got an example of a time where his team were absolutely robbed, right? And that's the point he asks the video refs. 100 or other times, he doesn't say a word, goes, yeah, you know, rough with the smooth and all that. You know.
So what these managers going to do when they iron out the details on VAR and every decision is going to be perfected? They have nothing to say anymore.
Nothing to say. Where do you go from there? You have to say, you know what? Yeah, I'm just a really crap manager, and we got beat.
I think managers,
because it's only your fault at that point, isn't it?
Right. I think managers have the most to lose in this with this new technology coming in, but.
I mean, we'll see how it pans out. It's going to take years and years and years, I feel, for it to be perfected. But carry on with Week 22 MLS. I know there's a few important games.
Yeah. Well, we got some other big news. Probably the biggest news of the week was Carlos Vela, former Arsenal player,
Still playing.
Still playing. He's been playing at Sociedad for a while now. He's done a very good job for them. But he's been announced. Well, officially, will be announced on Friday. But he signed for LAFC, new club. The first designated player in the club's history,
This is Bob Bradley's new team.
Yes.
Los Angeles FC.
Yep.
He's back.
I remember Bob.
Famous English manager, Bob Bradley.
I like him.
Yeah, the exact money hasn't been disclosed at this time. I expect that this will come out on Friday when he's officially announced. But, Sam, you can probably comment on this. I just don't see Bradley and Vela getting along well at all. I think that with Jonathan Dos Santos going to LA Galaxy, LAFC felt like they needed a Mexican player to draw that audience in, and Vela's notorious for having an attitude, notorious for playing out of position, being a free spirit, and Bob Bradley is as by the book and as by his tactics as there is.
I think Bob Bradley's been called into Los Angeles to build the brand and kind of do how the owners want the club to grow, because there's a huge Mexican audience on the West Coast. So I don't think Bradley really has to say. Maybe his personality might get in the way sometimes, but I don't see it being a problem. I think it's a good DP signing. He's a proven goal scorer on an international level, and he's been all over the world.
I mean, I think it's good for the club. I just don't think it's good for Bradley, and I feel like if he had his way, he might not have signed him. I just don't think Vela's going to work out tactically, but still a good sign for the club. Carlos Vela is probably 27 now.
Really? That young? Young?
Yeah, because he's been around for so long. It's crazy he's that young. Yeah. He's 28. 28, yep.
That's amazing. Yeah.
For a while, I was calling for him to come back, and Wenger should call him back from loan because he was doing so well in La Liga. Obviously, that never happened. Probably for the best. Bigger story breaking today. Nashville has officially launched their MLS bid. The Wilf family, who owns the Minnesota Vikings, has they've put some money together, and I think Nashville's been a city that's been floating around for a while now, and I think it's a one that could potentially be a very good MLS market. 50,000 fans at the Gold Cup game in Nashville this year for the United States versus Panama. I know it's not exactly Nashville, but Chattanooga FC in the American 4th Division, the NPSL, has drawn up to 18,000 fans. And this is a semi-pro, mostly college players and stuff. They've drawn 18,000 fans. So,
did you watch any of the Gold Cup, Paul? The
no.
Central North American version of the European
I don't know how I'd watch that.
Isn't it on anywhere? No?
I don't know how I'd watch it.
It's probably on late, because most of the games are at night.
You don't watch Martinique versus
French Guyana.
French Guyana.
I did try to tune into that one.
So do you remember? You know Florent Malouda, the ex-Chelsea.
I heard this on podcast last week. Yeah. And then I looked it up afterwards. I don't know what is he doing? Is he just going to play for any French colony? You go, look at me, I've got a French tattoo. Look, come on, give us a game. What?
He got kicked out of the stadium. He got banned.
How old is he? Like 40?
He's playing in India, I think, in like the Indian Super League or
in the Indian
or Thailand. He's playing in one of those Asian countries that have shelled out a bunch of money for a ridiculously old player, but probably one of the most bizarre international soccer stories I've ever heard. It's like the US.
It's pretty weird. It's pretty weird.
I don't know. Shout out to French colonies though, keeping Malouda's career alive.
I suppose, but you know what? Actually, who cares? Like, what they're going to do? Ban him from international football? You know.
He doesn't really care at this point, does he?
Yeah.
But last piece of news, Open Cup is back tonight. The semifinals, Sporting Kansas City versus San Jose tonight. The game will be streamed to U.S. Soccer's website. ESPN not picking the game up tonight, kind of odd because they picked up the some of the FC Cincinnati games. But FC Cincinnati will be playing New York Red Bull next Wednesday night. Game's already sold out. The website their website crashed. I'm definitely on the FC Cincinnati bandwagon. So Paul, a team in the 3rd division right now, they're drawing like 30,000 fans for their games.
That's impressive.
They set the Open Cup record, and they've already beat 2 MLS clubs. They beat the best team in MLS this year, Chicago Fire. They knocked them out last round, or 2 rounds ago. So this is the first 3rd division team to be in the semifinal in like 10 years or something.
They can't get promoted, so they're going to have to sit there for a number of years.
But you know what? That's a really good measure of the growth of the game. You know, you go 3 tiers down, you pull in crowds like that.
Yeah.
That's how you measure the game. Everyone will go and watch top tier football. Of course they will. When you start to look down the leagues and you're starting to pull in crowds like that, that's when you know something has taken off.
Yeah, it's a shame because they've done a good job of drawing fans in and creating a culture there in Cincinnati. But as I said earlier, it was the weekend of upsets in MLS Week 22. DC United got a point out of Toronto. Kofi Apara on the board for United, and then U.S. international Steve Birnbaum scored an own goal, which rescued a point for Toronto. But that would have been a very big result for the ugliest club in Major League Soccer. Philly beat Dallas 3-1. CJ Sapong brace. Ilsinho had an absolute masterclass. Their midfielder got a goal as well. Last big upset was Montreal over Orlando. Orlando scored first. Kyle Larin. I actually watched a good bit of that game. Larin and Dom Dwyer played pretty well actually.
So Dom
together.
Dwyer is this English guy, the most expensive MLS transfer of all time, right?
Most expensive transfer from team to team in the league history.
What are we talking?
Heard of him?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a big fan. How much was he?
Well, it's all broken down into allocation money, so Connor's going to break this down.
It's pretty much MLS has a special currency that they use, and it's allocation money, and there's different forms of allocation money.
Football dollars.
Football dollars. It's like a video game. It's like FIFA Ultimate Team coins, but in actual value, it probably ended up being around $7 million American dollars. Money that was actually spent was closer to like $3 million. But with the value of that money that was spent, it's probably closer to like a $7 million value, which was, I mean, it's I guess it's kind of big, I guess, for MLS, whatever. It's the biggest one ever for a good player. But Montreal ended up coming back 2-1. Piatti scored. Some young kid, I forgot his name, scored the late winner. Big win for Montreal. They're really struggling at the bottom of the table. And they just have such a good team. It's surprising to see how much worse they're doing this year compared to last year with essentially the same team. But Seattle 4-0 over Minnesota. The Loons, their struggles continue. Clint Dempsey scored a brace. Jordan Morris got one. Will Bruin got one. Fire in New England 4-1 to the Fire. Everyone in Chicago except Nemanja Nikolic scored. It was the 9th consecutive home win for the Fire. And that was a few other games on Saturday, nothing too big. So Sunday, Portland 3-1 over the LA Galaxy. This game was played at 11 a.m. due to some very warm weather in Portland. I think this is actually the second game this season that they've moved up in the day.
What temperature was it?
I think at 11 a.m. we checked, right? It was 11 a.m. in there. It was 2 p.m. here. It was, I think, 90,
it's going to the hundreds, right?
94 degrees at that early in the morning. So
the West Coast pool heat wave. Morning. Don't get that issue in Bristol, dear.
Hasn't stopped raining for the whole of August. So, no.
All right, Paul. So one of Portland's 3 goals, right, was scored by an Englishman, former Premier League player, right?
Yep.
West Brom, one of his teams.
Birmingham, West Brom.
I know you mean. What's his name?
Defender.
He's the fullback, isn't he? I read a magazine once and I was looking at his house. He looks like he lives very well on the river. Shit. I'm not remember his name. I know his face.
He's captain, right, at Portland?
He's the captain, yeah.
He's captain of Portland.
Is he not?
Liam Ridgewell.
That's the one. Liam Ridgewell,
yeah. He's done well for them except for his DUI he got last summer, but regardless. He got the first goal for Portland. Diego Valeri, one of ESPN FC's, I think he was in the top 5, right? 3rd best player in the league according to ESPN. scored an absolute golazo. Jonathan Dos Santos made his debut for LA, and then, as we mentioned earlier, the Giassi Zardes video assisted referee incident happened, and if he didn't smack the ball in, maybe LA would have done a little bit better. But he's an idiot. Worst player in national team history. The big one of the weekend, and probably the best game of the whole season, was the Derby. NYCFC 3-2 over New York Red Bull. Game had a little bit of everything. Bradley Wright Phillips brace for the Red Bulls. David Villa hat trick.
Still ripping out Bradley Wright Phillips.
Yeah. David Villa hat trick for City. It was a fun game to watch. I know we were tuned in. We had a funeral to be at, unfortunately, but we were able to watch the game at the
we were going to go down
after.
to the game, but we had to attend a funeral. But it was good to see. There was an All-Star game midweek last Wednesday. It was the MLS All-Stars versus Real Madrid. It actually was 1-1, and it went to penalties, Real Madrid coming on top. But those guys coming back from that camp and going straight back to the clubs, especially David Villa, who scored a hat-trick. It was a packed Yankee Stadium, and it had everything, from New York going up. It was back and forth. Yeah, it was. I know we caught the last 20-30 minutes of it on TV, so it was a very exciting game.
Yes.
To wrap up the weekend.
Yep. And then the nightcap on Sunday was Sporting Kansas City drawing with Atlanta. Benny Feilhaber scoring a PK to get Kansas City on the board first, and then Atlanta another late goal that rescued points. They scored in stoppage time. So that is it for MLS Week 22. Tune into the Open Cup tonight. More action coming this weekend in America's favorite league.
So there you go, Paul. You are further educated in the world of MLS and VAR. VAR. But going on, obviously, the Premier League is upon us. August 11th is the first game. Arsenal versus Leicester City. Your beloved Everton have had a very busy summer. How excited are you for this season? Not only Everton, we're going to start with last year's champions Chelsea. What they've done this summer, how are they going to defend their title? Did they lose out on Lukaku, and have they got a kind of comparable striker in Morata? What's your view on last year's champions Chelsea?
I think they're weaker. I'm not convinced at all. I think Morata's a gamble. I think he was obviously their second choice. Mourinho's gone about convincing Lukaku. That's fairly clear. And I think the way that Diego Costa stuff's being managed is terrible, because they look to be shopping him out to whoever is going to take him. It's not happened yet, but they lose one of the best centre forwards on the planet, Mm-hmm. And they bring in Alvaro Morata, who, for all intents and purposes, is. What is he? I mean, come on. He's not a sort of first-tier centre-forward, is he? There's an element of a gamble. He's come from another league. He's a young man. I mean, Diego Costa's a monster on his day.
I mean, when Manchester United went after Lukaku, they were linked to Morata. And I think they went safely with Lukaku just because of his proven goal-scoring record in the Premier League. I heard reports and pundits say that Man United have really lost out on a better up-and-coming striker in Morata because he's more mobile. He can give you more to the game. But how can you argue with 20 goals plus guaranteed per season? And with this Diego Costa saga, this is coming off the back end of last season. It looks like he's going to go back to Atletico Madrid and then loaned out and then join them halfway through the season. He'll be eligible for the Champions League. It doesn't look like he's going to wear a Chelsea jersey again come start of the season.
And Paul, I agree with you. I think Chelsea is definitely looking weaker. I think their signings have been underwhelming. And my personal opinion is I think Morata is maybe the most overrated player in the game right now. I just don't see the hype. And there really isn't even that much hype, honestly. He's played for two big clubs. He's scored some goals, but he just seems somewhat underwhelming. And I think that Chelsea will, they'll be competing for top four, and Conte did wonders with them last year, but I think they might make a harder push for this in the Champions League this year, just having won two out of the last three Premier Leagues, and they might really try to take European football a little bit more seriously. Not like they're gonna just walk through the Premier League and not care, but I guess it'll be interesting to see how they do. And I saw one of the lines on the betting lines on what pundits will get sacked first. I saw Conte was up there with some of the first pundits to get sacked. Not pundits, some of the first managers to get sacked, just because there seems to be something about Premier League managers and the season after they win the Premier League not lasting for the full season. But I guess we'll have to wait and see how he does.
But what if Morata is a success, Paul? They lose Costa, Hazard stays. Their new signings in Bakayoko and Rudiger has come in, a defender. What if these guys are a success and they're firing on all cylinders again? They have lost Matic, which I guess they're basing on stats, like his decline in tackles and interceptions has declined over the past 3 years. But they still lost a very good holding midfielder. I know you can make any stat look good or bad to any player, but with the additions to the guys that are coming, Bakayoko had a great season last season for Monaco. What if he steps up to the plate and Hazard improves his game, he gets better, and Morata does start scoring?
Well, I mean that's great. I mean that could happen. I mean that's how Conte obviously sees it. But I mean the truth of it is, have they added to what they had? So you're looking at swapping players out. The what's his name, Bakayoko?
Yeah.
So he's got to come in and he's got to be Matic straight away with 3 Premier League seasons under his belt in Matic. He's got to come in and be better than Matic straight away. It's a 1-for-1 swap. Matic is gone. John Terry's gone, right? Captain Marvel is gone. So the other defender's got to come on and someone's got to pick up the slack, right? Morata, he's got to come in and he looks like he's got to replace Diego Costa, who is virtually unplayable on his day. What I love about Diego Costa is, at the end of the day, right, he could have the touch of a rapist one afternoon, right? And he could absolutely stink the place out. But you know what he does? The guy's an animal. He will chase, he will run down, he will cover the distance, he will pinch, he will stamp on people's feet, and he will make it as hard as possible for all of the defenders on the pitch, even if he's having a terrible game. And that is almost priceless, So they've lost that. Morata's got to come in and do that straight off the bat.
It's going to be so hard. It's going to be so hard to replace Costa, because I don't know if there is a player who embraces the style of Premier League football more than him, and then takes it to another level where he is just so effective. And there can't be one defender in the league that enjoys playing against him, and that's a good thing to have. And yes, he has an attitude. I'm sure he causes problems at training and whatnot for the Chelsea coaching staff and players, but you throw him on the field and he's always productive. He's just a workhorse. And
what I like about these guys who are scoring in the Premier League, they know how to play with their back to goal and running at defenders. You see Lukaku, you see Costa put his arms out, his back to goal. He controls that ball even before the balls come to him. Yeah. Harry Kane does that. Morata has a totally different style of play that he's done in La Liga. He drops deep, he turns around, and he runs at people. We caught a glimpse of him at the Community Shield at the weekend, but I don't think he's that type of player who's going to really frustrate the back four. I think your experienced centre-back in the Premier League is going to have him in his pocket week in, week out. I don't think he's going to be a 20-plus goal scorer in this league.
No, I don't think he will either. The defenders are going to enjoy playing against him. They're going to enjoy it, and it just doesn't make a great deal of sense because what Conte hasn't suggested that he's adding to Diego Costa. He's not looking for Diego Costa foil, is he? He's looking for another guy to play up front on his own, 1-for-1, like I said. So, where do you go with that? What's Morata done to prove the point? How's that going to work? Honestly, really, it's not even a fair trade, is it?
So the way they lost out on Lukaku, you think, is a major loss for the reigning champions here. Major loss, without a doubt.
I think he was number one target, and I thought there must have been some kind of arrogance at Chelsea's boardroom, thinking the Chelsea connection was there. He'll come back to us. He's got a point to prove, and you know what? They got their pants pulled down by Man United in the end, didn't they? Yeah. And so you're left with what was left, and Morata. Like Connor said, there isn't any hype really. He was what was left. Yeah. You can't go out and buy Suarez. You can't go out and buy Lewandowski. You can't get that that type of player in. So you go, who's available? Morata's surplus to requirements and looks to be on the market. That's where we're going to have to go. Bollocks, you know?
Yeah, I mean, they still have a very strong squad. Their squad depth is it's very good. I mean, with their midfield, with Willian, Hazard, Victor Moses had a good season last season. They still have Kante, the one of the best defensive midfielders in the world right now.
Totally.
I don't think they're going to run away with it. They're going to be there and thereabouts. It's Chelsea. Conte is a great manager. He proved that last season coming into the league. But it will be interesting to see where they're going to find these goals from. You know, Costa scored a shit ton last season, and he didn't play every single game.
No.
And from the depths of Brooklyn, we are finally joined by our fourth and final guest. Mike McLaughlin has joined us. What's going on? Yeah, you're a guest now.
Friend of the program, Mike McLaughlin.
You now.
Sorry. Yeah, I apologize to all the
What
listeners.
the fuck happened?
We know how I stopped drinking, right?
Yeah.
Well, I kind of stopped drinking.
Okay.
And then and then today was my first day off in a while. So last night, I went out with some guys, and we had a great time. A lot of soccer talk. And then I kind of
stopped drinking.
No, I stopped drinking, and
All
it's
right.
been great. And then last night, I was my first night in a long time. So I had a great time last night. But then today,
All right. Okay.
Sorry about being late.
It's all right. I mean, we've done the MLS talk. We're on to the... here's Paul Wheatley, by the way. Remember Paul from episode 14?
Hey, Paul, how's it going?
Very well. Thank you for having me on, Mike.
Are you excited for Everton?
Of course I am. I've never been this excited. I'm actually, are you excited? I'm excited full stop because I've never been excited. So it's like a new word in my football vocabulary.
All right. I mean, going on from Chelsea, we just talked about Chelsea and the reigning champions, Mike. On to second place, Tottenham Hotspur. New stadium, Wembley, this season. White Hart Lane is no more. Last season, 17 out of 19 games at home, they won. They were the top goal scorers last season, Paul. They lost the fewest amount of games amongst all 20 Premier League clubs. The only player they've lost this season is Kyle Walker, who I don't rate that highly anyway.
Apparently Man City does.
For 50 million. What's your thought on this team and their move to Wembley Stadium, where they seem to have found it tough, especially in the Champions League? Paul Wheatley.
Right. Well,
I'm confused now. Mike's here.
Like, yeah, well, I haven't been on since February. Cut me some slack. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Well, straight away, like you said, the home form is gone. That's gone, and you've got to make that up somewhere. I don't know where you will. So they cannot be. I mean, the first 11 is probably the best in the league. I think, firing all cylinders.
Their starting 11 is the best starting 11 in the league.
Yeah, I do. I think team-wise, as a collective piece, as a collective team, I don't think there's one better. I think they're well balanced. They've got everything in their locker. I don't think you can look far beyond them. But like I said, home form gone. Completely gone. Learning the ropes again at a new stadium. They tried to squeeze the pitch. That's not going to work. Wembley won't let them do it. Just try and create the sort of White Hart Lane environment. They can't be better off than they were last year. They can't be. It's physically impossible, isn't it? I mean,
they still have time to strengthen their team. The transfer window's not dead, and they've already said they're still looking at the mark and they're kind of picking.
Yeah,
but I think this Neymar transfer has kind of foiled any plan for any big team in the world to kind of get the right guy at the right price. The market's just gone up tenfold since that $200 million transfer, dollar transfer for Neymar. Do you think he's just run out of time to strengthen the squad, Pochettino, or they're still looking?
I don't think he can. I don't think he can strengthen it. He's looked at his first 11, and I don't think he knows where to go. Daniel Levy's obviously holds the purse strings. He's not looking to push the boundaries of the new stadium in construction. They've done incredibly well to fend off the big offers for these guys. Because as far as we're concerned, mean, guys like Harry Kane are earning peanuts. He's on 75
yeah,
grand a week.
Yeah, these keeping these players are good enough signings as they are. Just keeping a hold of.
Without a doubt. I mean, it's a
Dyer.
miracle. It's a miracle, isn't it? Really, an absolute miracle.
How about Gareth Bale return for Tottenham, Mike?
Well, that would be dreamy. But what I was going to say is I heard Tottenham has all this money, but who really wants to sit the bench at Tottenham? You know what I mean? If I was a guy and I'm like, listen, I'm on Real Madrid, but I can't get in the starting 11. At least you feel good. But you sit the bench at Tottenham.
with the games that come and go in the Premier League, and Tottenham obviously automatically in the Champions League this season, there's enough games for you can have a squad of 20 and keep everyone happy. I feel like players are going to come in and out injured. I mean, Tottenham aren't going to get 20 first-team world-class players. That's not going to happen. They're going to have guys that are going to be known as part of a squad, and that's how Tottenham have worked for the last few seasons.
I think if I'm a Spurs fan, I am somewhat disappointed, though, because Tottenham really hasn't made the big marquee signing ever, really, which has worked great for them, especially recently. And Daniel Levy and whoever else has done such a good job of finding the right player for their system, and even if it's not the biggest name, it's worked out well. I mean, Victor Wanyama, for example, was great, but there's been really nothing at all that you can even look at, and I expect them still to do some business and make a couple smart signings that'll benefit the team, but for a team that finished second last year, I really can't, in history, or recent history at least, I can't think of a more quiet team in the top four in a while. I mean, usually everyone is throwing money out left and right, but I mean that's Arsenal maybe not spending money, but it's been somewhat surprising. But like Sam said, that they're building the stadium, and when Arsenal built their stadium, they didn't sign anyone for a few years. So
you think Tottenham are going to struggle just solely on their home form from last season, how they can translate that to Wembley Stadium? It can't be replicated. It just really can't.
No,
There's
it
can't.
It'd be amazing if it does.
You can't. It's not, so straight away, you look at the evidence and you're worse off than you were last year.
Yeah.
Simple as that. And to be fair to Tottenham, I mean, I would agree with Connor to a degree. I always think that Tottenham could do with. I always thought last season, I thought they could do with a lift. When I say a lift, I thought they could have done with a megastar in the side,
But wouldn't that unsettle the balance of the team that you just suggested? You don't think?
Maybe not. But they didn't have anywhere to look when it got tough. You know what I mean? They're all fairly youngish kids. None of them are sort of serious footballers. None of them have been around and won trophies.
They lost
three
games last season.
I know, but they did the same thing the year before. They just can't quite get over the line, and the clock's ticking. I thought they could have done with just something sensational in the side. Do you know what I mean? But when on those days when you really got to get yourselves over the line, somebody gives the club a lift.
I mean, Gareth Bale is a possibility of returning to Tottenham. That has been talk. I know he wants to go to Manchester United, but
no way.
There's no chance of that.
No way.
If they even spent the money before, they're not going to spend the money now. And the only reason it's even being considered is because he used to play there.
Like a LeBron move for Gareth Bale.
Yeah, I don't ever see that happening.
He'd have to take a 300% pay cut, wouldn't he? 300%, something ludicrous.
Oh yeah, no, that's not happening.
I mean, after watching the Super Cup yesterday, he's just playing any kind of minutes and just collecting trophies, and it's crazy.
He can't be too unhappy not being the main man at Real Madrid. I think it's worked out pretty well for him so far.
On to Manchester City now. They've spent over $300 million. They've got Walker in. They have Mendy. Ederson's the goalkeeper.
Danilo.
Kind of left back, right back, goalkeeper. Who else did they bring in?
Bernardo Silva was the big one.
Is this just a
by the way, they're the favorites, odd-wise.
Oh, they gotta be. They spent the most money, and this is the first year with Pep Guardiola getting the transfers he wanted to make, and he's he got rid of some crap.
Dude, some of them are as low as 2-1. And by the way, Tottenham is 7-1 to win the league.
10-1 I saw, and United was 3-1. Yeah. We'll get our predictions in a bit, but left back, right back, were they that weak in those positions last season? Obviously, Guardiola looked at maybe a lot of crosses coming in and goals being scored. Who'd they have? Zabaleta. They had an aging fullbacks that weren't bombing forward, but Mendy looks very strong. Kyle Walker obviously bombs up and down, as we know. Is this a shift in superstars coming in. Well, not superstars, but marketable players for Man City and just some leaving. How do you see this one, Paul? Man City this season?
It just kind of. I mean, they've obviously backed him. I mean, this is how he plays, isn't it? I mean, I think he bought. Did he buy? I was right in thinking he bought 3 fullbacks.
3. Who was the other? Danilo.
Yeah, so we bought 3 fullbacks at what was it? 150 million.
Yeah,
it's
52 for Mendy. It was 45 plus fees, which is going to be around like 50, 55, and then Danilo, which is 26. Crazy.
So not 130 million pounds on 3 fullbacks. I mean, you obviously know what the guys after they backed him. They said he's told everybody, "This is how I play. This is how I played at Barcelona. That's what he's looking to build." Yeah. I mean, it's. Are they a better side for it? I don't know. This is the Premier League. You know, he tried to sign Dani Alves to play high up the line. It might work. It might not. He's still got John Stones at the back, so that's not going to help.
Yeah. Company's in and out of injury, and plus he's aging.
Company's almost finished.
Yeah.
He's got David Silva running around at 31, 32. He's a fading force. Yaya Toure is still collecting a paycheck. I thought they could have done a bit better in that midfield. Really, got a decent football.
I mean, Yaya Toure's gone on the radar. I still think he can influence any game on his day. And they have a very exciting young striker in Gabriel Jesus. I think this is a big I think he's going to have a monster season. I really do.
I think a lot of City's success, I think they need one more defensive-based midfielder, but how quickly Bernardo Silva can be implemented in that team, and if he can be successful in the Premier League, he seems like he would be pretty much an out-and-out replacement for David Silva, and he was so good for Monaco last year. I mean, he was probably their best player last year. I mean, Mbappe get all the hype, but Silva was the most influential player on that team. And it's going to be, if the quicker he starts playing well, the better off Man City will be. And I don't know. I think Pep signing these goalkeeper and defenders their defense was so unacceptable last year that they have to improve and dramatically. And they spend. I mean, Mendy's the most expensive defender ever, so.
Ridiculous. I think it's stupid.
They do
money
that. They do that every year, though, don't they?
Yeah. I feel like teams just couldn't just up the price anyway when Man City come in. But we'll go on to the 4th and final team who finished in the top 4 last season, Liverpool. With the transfer Neymar going, does it look highly likely that Coutinho is going to flee the team? Klopp has told every reporter around the world to stop asking him the question that Coutinho's leaving. They still have a shit defence. I just don't see, with the amount of goals which they can score if they keep Coutinho, how they're going to stop goals at the other end. Michael, Paul.
What's up? Yeah, no, Coutinho.
Yeah, do you think he's going to leave for Barcelona? Right.
I mean, weren't the reps there like yesterday?
Yeah.
The Barcelona reps. I mean, but Klopp, do you think Klopp's just like playing an angle like good cop, bad cop, so that they actually get a higher price for him?
I mean, they're going to get over 100 million now that this transfer.
That is just wild, though, isn't it? You know, for Philip Coutinho, come on, man. That is just wild. You can only assume that they phoned Chelsea straight away, Barcelona, and said, "Can we have Hazard?" And they've gone no, because he's such the most natural acquisition with 200 million pounds for that left side, isn't he?
Do you think Barcelona are going to give up all the money they just received from Neymar onto a direct replacement? Coutinho is nowhere near the level Neymar's at, right?
I think they're better off signing Dembele.
Huh?
I think they're better off signing Dembele because you have a player that is already produced in Europe, and he's such a young player. He can be good for 10 years at Barcelona. And I don't see... Coutinho has had some great moments in his career in the Premier League. He scored some great goals, great passes, whatever. But... He's a YouTube player. He looks great on social media, but is he really influencing the game for 90 minutes week in, week out? I don't think so. And I'm surprised that Barcelona wants to sign him. They're not going heavy after Dybala or...
We've basically shat on all 4 teams that finished in the top 4 in the Premier League last season.
Very cynical.
It's going to be AFC Bournemouth running away with it. They look good this year, boys. They look great.
I want to talk about some of the new teams in the Premier League, though. Now, Coutinho, but you're right, though, Connor. The other Barcelona reps are in Germany right now talking to Dortmund about Dembele.
I think, what did Dortmund put his his release clause at? 150 million, something like
Or
that.
Oh
20.
my word! Oh my
Well,
word!
now, do you think Neymar's release clause, 200 million, whatever? Now that people are going to set these new contracts, everyone's just going to up the release clause. I bet the guy who set Neymar's release clause is kicking himself now. Why didn't he set it at 500 million? You know, no one in their right mind would have thought PSG would have paid that money for him.
But the thing is, that Neymar does offer value. He does offer that value. Neymar's
Because
25 years old.
marketing,
He's
yeah.
done it for Barcelona. He's the most marketable,
Yeah.
one of the most marketable players on the entire planet. He's 25. He's come from Barcelona. I mean, you're going to make a fortune from him. It's a fact. There's no doubt about it. So you can't really when things like that happen. Okay, 200 million. Everyone scratches their head and goes, "This is incredible." But it kind of there's a sense in it, isn't there? Where there isn't any sense is when, if you're going to judge inflation, you judge it on butter and milk. You don't judge it on caviar and champagne, do you? Do you know what I mean? What never makes any sense is middle of the road players changing hands for 50 million. The Kyle Walkers of this world. They're the head scratchers.
I think that's the most shocking. That's the most shocking deal of the transfer window to me. Honestly, it's Neymar. He's of course he's gonna be worth that much. I know it's a lot, but he is worth that much, and he's gonna be the best player in the world. Some think he is now. It makes sense, but Kyle Walker for 50 million. I mean, at the time, he was the most until they signed Mendy. He was the most expensive transfer ever for a defender.
Exactly,
dude. This happened. There will be a correction in the market because this happened in baseball. In the late 90s through the early 2000s, they signed, I know you guys don't, the audience will like this, I'm telling you. They signed A-Rod for 10 years for $250 million. It was $25 million a year back in 99. And then Manny Ramirez was signed for something similar, $200 million. And then Mike Mussina was signed for $90 million. Everybody started signing these crazy long contracts. And also the middle of the road guys were making $17 million, $16 million for 5 to 10 years. Yeah. And it took those 2-3 years to play out, and all these guys getting injured, the team's being held up, they're renegotiating for annuities. There's still guys being paid now off those contracts then that renegotiated and got paid out in annuities in 20 to 30 years retirement plans because those teams going to do it. So there probably will be a correction in all this year. You're going to see maybe even a team fold or a team go to lower division because of some of these things. And then there will be some type of correction. Or there would just be massive inflation or in the world.
No, it just can't keep going up and up and up. It just that's impossible. There has to be a shift in the market.
It will
definitely
happen
at some point.
It will.
You know
what?
We're going to go to the billions. We're going to go to the trillions. No.
Well, you know what happened in
obviously
baseball.
Obviously, it's not going to go that high. But why would it stop now? The game is growing.
Well, you know what fixes it? You get a couple weird new genius guys, Billy Bean, Theo Epstein's, to come into the world and do sabermetrics and figure a way to get guys you don't know, a Giovinco, slot them in, and then all of a sudden these guys are delivering what they're paying out, what they're producing is a huge discrepancy, and then these guys become geniuses, and then everybody starts looking at these presidents and stuff as a way. All right, this is my own. I'm tripping out here.
No, I like it.
That is what you're going to start to see, possibly maybe some sort of, what do they call them in soccer? The team president? Is that who's organizing the whole squad? It's the coach and the team president?
Director of football.
Yeah.
There's not really a set name for it. Different clubs have different titles for it, but sporting director, the president.
Right, for the whole soccer team.
There's a lot of presidents in Spain, right? That's who pretty much control the funds there.
But,
but there's a team of accountants that's, at PSG. It's okay, if we sign him for this, have him on this contract, how much can we make from these markets, etc. It just goes on and on and on.
You don't think,
and they obviously saw it as a return.
PSG is going to make that money back so fast in jersey sales, and
it's not really the jersey sales, because the manufacturers of the jerseys get the higher percentage of those sales because they have to keep producing that jersey. Slapping a Neymar, they just pay one lump sum to have that name on the back of their jersey. That's pretty much it.
There's one Liverpool fan listening to us. Can we get back to Liverpool?
Yeah. There's not going to be many Kyle Walker jerseys in the Middle East. But on to Manchester United now. Paul, are they really going to be a force this season, or is this just kind of another strung out season post Alex Ferguson?
No. You're not going to get away with that again. No,
you can't get away with this again.
The football world is sick of hearing this transition piece for Manchester United. I mean, come on. I mean, how much money have you spent since Alex Ferguson lost? I mean, was there any players left? Well, Michael Carrick, and that's it. And he only left 5 years ago. Everybody else has been bought in. You know, it's
still got Phil Jones. Phil Jones is still there.
Phil Jones should be retired. Phil Jones is not even a professional footballer. He's barely he's yet to turn pro. Phil Jones. I mean, you've got. How are you not a force to be reckoned with? What are your excuses, really?
Well, I mean, last season, let's put this into numbers. 24 points behind Chelsea. 24 points behind Chelsea. Not in the top 4. Yes, we won the League Cup. Yes, we won the Europa Cup, and we've got into the Champions League. But still, how are they going to bridge that gap to 24 points? Obviously, they've bought Lukaku in for 72 million. Matic has come in. Is that going to allow Pogba to have the freedom? I saw him yesterday in the Super Cup against Real Madrid. There's such a huge gulf pool between the two sides. I know Real Madrid are one of the best teams in the world, but it's not even close. It really isn't close, the gulf. The game was 2-1. Madrid controlled the game from start to finish. Yes, United could have snatched a draw, but the gulf is huge, and Pogba looks exactly the same type of player as he did last season.
He definitely... I mean, I know I had talked. I don't even know if we had recorded. We recorded before, after they signed Matic, or was that happened in between us recording?
Yeah, we haven't talked about Matic.
Okay, because I know I was thinking to myself, and we talked about it like amongst ourselves. That would be such a good signing because now Pogba would have all the freedom to run around with Matic and Herrera. And that's a pretty solid, block behind you if you want to call it that. But he looked no better yesterday than he did at any point last season, and. Maybe he's just...
that's a major worry, isn't it?
It is.
That is a
if you're a
pretty
United
major
fan,
worry.
If Pogba can't perform well this year, I think that United has to be very worried because they've spent the second highest transfer fee ever now for a player that has done next to nothing for them.
That's actually hitting on my... I was just going to say that, Pogba. That's hitting on my point that you're going to have some massive failures before teams stop with these high transfer values, because if you got a guy like Pogba and it ruins the whole squad for how long, I mean,
I think it does. I mean, this is a huge season for Pogba and Manchester United. They've got their goal scorer in Lukaku. They've got a 20+ goal a season guy. If he stays healthy, and he's never really got injured throughout his career, need to find goals from other areas. Pogba needs to step up with a few more goals. Has to. I mean, our midfielders, do they really score? We've got Rashford coming in, but he didn't play the whole season. He was in and out of the team last season. Mata's in and out of the team with Jose Mourinho. I mean, we need to get goals from other sources. Chelsea got goals from Hazard, Willian. They got goals from midfield and Diego Costa. That's how you win leagues. And if we're solely relying on just Romelu Lukaku to get our goals, United aren't going to be any better than last season, I feel.
The one concern with Lukaku's been is he doesn't score against top teams, and at least he hasn't in the Premier League, and now he's playing for a top team. He needs to score against top teams, and now he's in the Champions League and has to score against top teams. And I love Lukaku. I've been a massive Lukaku backer. But if he can't do that now that he's playing at a little bit different level of a club than he was at with Everton, no offense to you, Paul, but it's another thing.
Some taken. Some taken.
Nah, it is gonna be it will be worrisome though for United supporters and the club itself.
I think not only do they have to come close to winning the title, if not win the title this season, they have to do well in the Champions League. These players have played in the Champions League. All these players have. They have experience. I don't feel like the pressure's on for these players. You've got a coach who's won the Champions League, won the league. There's no reason for them to be out of the top two. There really isn't, with the squad that you see. I
totally agree. It's not. It just isn't good enough. Going back to Lukaku, I think the most interesting thing about Lukaku for me will be, like Connor said, doesn't bully big teams. He goes missing against. He's great for scoring 5 against Swansea at home. Mid-season. Thanks, Romelu. That's really useful. But what's interesting, Lukaku, is how he'll deal with that pressure. He is going to be at a football club where, if he doesn't score for 3 games, people are talking. He's on the back pages of the newspapers. They're talking about him on Sky Sports. They're talking about him on Match of the Day. You can be a deadbeat in 3 games at Manchester United, at a large club. You get away with it at Everton. You know, someone tells me that, Lukaku hasn't scored for 3 or 4 games. I know that. You guys probably wouldn't have known that at Everton.
I slightly disagree, because Paul Pogba got away with it the whole of last season.
Did he?
I think he did.
He was getting slaughtered, mate.
I don't think there was a player that got attacked by media and fans more last year than Paul Pogba. I mean, he was the scapegoat. Yeah. He was the scapegoat for. He was the laughingstock of the league because he didn't do anything.
He was. There's nowhere to go at Manchester United. Nowhere to go. Nowhere to hide. And the last thing you need is another Pogba.
Another team we're slating here. We're gonna move on. we're gonna talk about Arsenal at the end, but I know you're itching to talk about your beloved Everton this season. A bunch of signings this season. Your beloved son has come back to the club on a free transfer from Manchester United. It was exciting when he signed. It's kind of gone under the radar. Okay, pre-season.
Under the radar? What? It was the biggest story on the planet.
Come on.
Jeez, come on.
Yeah, fuck Neymar, fuck Lukaku. It's all about Wayne Rooney and his transfer this summer.
We got. I mean, we pulled your pants down there. We got the best player I've ever seen in my entire life, and we gave you Lukaku, and we took 75 million off you. I mean, Christ, what a deal! It's a deal of the century.
And we still have Fellaini, but
and you still got Fellaini, yeah.
Some of the guys that have come in this season for Everton, Wayne Rooney from Manchester United, free transfer. Pickford come in from Sunderland, the young goalkeeper. Michael Keane has come in for Burnley, centre-back, ex-United player who had a good season in the England squad now. Klaassen has come in from Ajax. Sandro Ramirez is your replacement for Lukaku. I saw a few highlights of him at Malaga. He is a Barcelona product. Kind of a weird guy the way he plays.
He's a weird looking guy.
The way he strides and kicks the ball is kind of odd, but it's a 23-year-old guy coming from La Liga. Pretty small. I think he's only 5'6" or 7. He's got a little bit of skill.
He played well at the Euros.
He runs a lot and he takes these long strides. He does have a good strike of the ball, and you have young Davis and Holgate, coming into their second season now. Are you excited for these transfers? What's going on behind the scenes at Everton this summer?
So we've slated the top 5. So I can only assume Everton are going to be moving up that table. Does that by logic?
Yeah.
Brilliant. So we, for the first time, have been out there aggressively in the transfer market. I've never seen that ever. The Mashiri money on Uonu, who came into the club sort of 18 months ago, was completely and utterly backed Ronald Koeman. Ronald Koeman has obviously had some pretty clear transfer targets, and they've gone out and they've just wrote check after check, and they've addressed problems. They've built a spine of the team. You know what? It's unbelievable. I'm just incredibly excited. So excited that when I was out in Borneo on my honeymoon, I bought the Everton shirt on eBay. I thought, now's the time.
But obviously you've lost Lukaku, which is a huge loss. You need to replace those goals. Barkley unsettled summer, and towards the end of last season, he looks like he's on his way out. Young Ross Barkley there. His behaviour this summer within the club, do you think it's disgusting, or do you see it from where he is?
Well, we talked last time about Ross Barkley, and I've been his biggest fan. And we said the same thing last time. It just hasn't come on. It hasn't made the progress. And this summer, I mean, he took some bad advice, because he turned around. He obviously is out of contract in 12 months, but he turned around and asked for 150 grand a week to sign the new deal. That's game-changing money without him changing any games. So Ronald Koeman's looked him right at the eye and said, "Good one, Ross. We've got plenty of money now. You're replaceable." And has got no connection to the local lad like the fans have. And the fans have sort of said, yeah, I mean, if we're aggressive in the transfer market and we brought in other players, I'm sorry, Ross Barkley, but you're just not worth the cash. And it doesn't look like anybody else thinks he is either.
Yeah, I mean, there hasn't been many bites at all, but I mean, he's obviously looked at other young players in England going for huge amounts of money and getting the big contracts. Everton aren't a super club yet. Yes, they have money to back them, but they're not just going to offer, a guy who should be the main man for the club who isn't.
Absolutely.
Not going to offer him that kind of wages. I think it's pretty disgusting from what Everton have done and how they've brought up Ross Barkley and given him the chance. I think there's definitely a clash of personalities between Koeman and Ross Barkley. I really think you have one of the best managers in the league in Ronald Koeman. He's set out his team this season how he kind of wants it. A couple of unknown signings in Klassen and Ramirez. It's going to be really interesting to see how those guys adapt to the Premier League. But I mean, Pickford, definitely a great goalkeeper. He had a great under-21 tournament, and Michael Keane, who had a great year for Burnley last season. They kind of snuffed him out of Manchester United's nose because they were looking to get him back in at the club. I mean, still got good old Leighton Baines there.
Klassen looks like a lovely footballer. He looks like he's got a great range of passing. He's going to sit there and he's going to do exactly what Barkley probably hasn't been doing. He was the Ajax captain. He's a young man. He's up for it. Michael Keane's a great age. Pickford's a great age. He's gone away. Like I said, Ronald Koeman's gone out and addressed problems. It's been a clear strategy. And you can rarely say that about a football club. The only thing I would probably say is, you're probably right. We're probably a bit light up front. He's still looking at Sigurdsson, which is kind of baffling.
50 million, mate.
Completely it's baffling. The 50 million is obviously insulting in itself, but I mean, I think we're probably going to be a bit heavy in that midfield, and with only Sandro up front, you kind of think,
Well, they signed Henry Anawerku, that Belgian kid that was the leading scorer in Belgium last year. Arsenal were linked to him at the beginning of summer, but I think he's only 18 or 19. I don't know how much playing time he's going to get. Can I just interject with some breaking news real quick?
Yes.
DC United will sign Paul Areola today for a club record £300 million. They also
300 million.
Wait, what the heck?
I'm thinking Neymar. I'm thinking Paul Areola's on that Neymar level.
That's some breaking news for Areola.
No, £3 million or $3 million. What am I talking about?
$3
million
We live in America.
Tijuana. They also owe LA Galaxy a pretty considerable amount of money for his MLS because they have discovery rights for him because he came up in LA and played for the youth academy, whatever. And that is the biggest deal in DC United history. And they also signed a American midfielder today from Hoffenheim, who's 22. Russell Canoes. I've never heard about him. But Paul's coming home. Paul's coming home.
There you go.
Sorry to interrupt.
What's so funny? You said that's the biggest deal DC United ever signed, right?
It's going to be over $3 million. And then he's going to be making at least $1 million a year salary.
$3 million.
$3 million. Watch out MLS transfers.
Do you know how many Areolas you can get for one Sigurdsson, Paul Wheatley? A lot.
I'm going to calculate. Yeah, the Sigurdsson is like I said, it's completely like that's the worst part, isn't it? Like we talked about earlier. That's like the real marker in the sand when average Joes change hands at 50 million.
You think that Sigurdsson's just an average Joe though?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
He was involved
50 million.
For 50 million, it's a lot.
You're talking. He's an Icelandic international. He's played at Swansea for the majority of his career. What level is he at, really? Come on.
He went to Tottenham. He didn't do the business there, and he went back to Swansea.
Yeah.
And Everton want to be at the level Tottenham want to be, and they always were. Tottenham have gone ahead of them in the last few years, but kind of always considered Everton and Tottenham being, the teams just below that top four, and Swansea obviously a little bit lower than that. But I want to ask you, I want your opinion on how Wayne Rooney's going to fit in this team. There has been some rumours that he might play up front. I don't think he can do that. I don't think he can score goals. How is he going to fit into this Everton team, and what are you expecting from him this season?
Well, I mean, from a non-football perspective, it raises the profile of the club massively, and it's kind of exciting before you have to look into the detail of your question. Where is he going to fit in? Because I've really got no idea. We look pretty strong in that middle sort of third. We've got Schneiderlin sat there. We'll have David Klassen sat there. We look like Sigurdsson's going to be thereabouts. We've also got Guy in there who's excellent. So you kind of think to yourself, God, are we going to have the same problem as Manchester United here or what? You know, where we're just trying to shoehorn this guy in who's essentially finished. And unfortunately for him, there's somebody better than him in every position that you can think of playing him in. And that is a concern. I don't know. And the saddest part about it is he's only just 31. But
I mean, he's club captain, right? Wayne Rooney? Is he going to be?
Yeah, it looks like it. I mean, to be honest, he's been poorly managed the last couple of years. You know, he's probably got some fire in his belly. This could rejuvenate him. He's come back to pre-season. He looks like he's in great shape. He doesn't look this trim in years. So that's something.
He scored an
so he
absolute
looks like
goal on his debut in
he did.
Mozambique or wherever he was.
That was one thing I always thought about Rooney and a lot of these players. Why do they gain weight at they late 29, 30? I don't understand. Like, if you just stay thinner, you'll be quicker with your feet. But here's another thing I got for you guys. Why can't he's skilled, right? We'll say that, right? He's skilled possession, passing the ball. Why couldn't he play a holding midfield and sort of sit back in that like 6 spot? He's athletic enough for that, isn't he?
It's because he's cheese.
He's
not a good passer.
I don't think he can break up play. He can hold. I don't know. I don't think he's gonna. Well, like a Kante, like kind of across the halfway line. I think his delivery is still good. I think he can still influence goal scoring chances. He can chip in with the odd goal or two. I mean, Kante will score half a goal a season, and do all the work in that defensive midfield spot.
Can't you reinvent yourself? Like, couldn't he become more of like a Pirlo type? Doesn't he have that type of skill?
No.
Yeah, I thought about this, and I think the problem with Wayne Rooney over the years is people have thought this and tried to do it, but the problem for Wayne Rooney is he plays at the top level, and if he wants to be a Pirlo, if he wants to be a holding midfielder, he's got to play against the best holding midfielders in the business and be as good as them, having never done it. And that looks like it was quite tough for him, because let's be honest, there's a mountain of better midfielders than him in the country.
I mean, is
it plausible?
The World Cup's coming up next year, and he's still thinking about getting in that squad. He's been ousted from the squad the last 2 call-ups, but I think one of the reasons why he did go to Everton, not abroad, was to try and get back in that England squad for the World Cup next year. Do you see that happening? Or do you just think England are just going to take a step in the next direction here for next summer? Anyone?
I mean, the one I thought with the thing Paul just kind of eloquently shot down correctly, but that's the only way that he could probably get in there is if he did totally change his game, right, and become, because he's not quick, he's not as strong. Well, he's still strong.
He already has changed his game in the latter years of his career. You want him to change his game again into the latter stages of his career. I'm just going to not score. I'm not going to be striker from 29 onwards, and then just be that kind of midfield behind the striker. Now, was he going to play left back in like 4 years' time?
He's going to move to America. He's going to challenge Graham Zusi for right back position.
But,
I don't know.
So you said this is the most exciting you felt as an Everton fan since the incarceration of the
incarceration
of the Premier League. You think?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, look at the dross. Look at the dross that we've had to put up with over the years. I mean, come on, mate. I mean, do you think Everton have gone out, in pre-season and spent upwards of 150 million? Okay, we did recoup that, quite a lot of it, from that deadbeat that we sold to Manchester United. But I mean, that is unprecedented, and it's never happened. It never happened in my lifetime. We managed to persuade Wayne Rooney to come back. I know he's got his problems. Don't get me wrong, but we managed to convince him that it was a viable move. We've gone out and bought the captain of Ajax. We've probably beat a number of people to young Jordan Pickford. Goalkeepers are hard to come by. There must have been floods of people in for him. Michael Keane, he was well valued. Michael Keane. I'm not surprised if he didn't have 4 or 5 offers. It's just impressive.
I mean, going swimmingly in the Europa Cup as well, going through the qualifying rounds. Unfortunately, not in the Champions League. But another team also in the Europa Cup is a team that begins with A. Wenger has signed a 2-year contract. Alexis Sanchez is still there. Ozil's still there. They've acquired Lacazette from the French league. It is Arsenal FC. How do we see Arsenal going this season, Connor?
I can see it going one of two ways, honestly. I think the Europa League, while it's not as much of a distraction as the Premier League, I feel like you often end up playing more games just because there's so many more teams in it, and I don't think Arsenal needs to be playing more games. I've never watched Arsenal in the Europa League. I followed it, but I've never followed it at the level I'm going to follow it this year, so I don't really know what to expect from the competition. It's going to be an interesting season, and I think Lacazette, if it works out, could be great. It's the first time they've had a mobile striker that can finish in a very long time, and not to compare him at all to Henry, but they haven't had a striker that can actually move and has a history of scoring goals.
Well, if you watch a couple of his videos on YouTube, he does have that Thierry Henry style. Remember back in the early 2000s where Thierry Henry would use his pace, open his body up, and kind of curl it around the goalkeeper. Such a typical goal for Thierry Henry. He kind of has that style, I feel, by just watching some highlights of him.
And one thing, he scored, I think, 33 goals last year for Lyon, 31 goals. A lot, I would say just under half, maybe 40% were penalties, which I know some Arsenal fans have been concerned about, but we haven't had a guy that can finish a penalty.
Come on, you're not relying on people to take penalties.
We don't score them.
Do you miss many?
Yeah.
Game-changing. I can't really think of that many game-changing moments where Arsenal have missed a penalty to lose.
Regardless, it's a guy that can he can finish. Regardless of where it's from, he's able to finish, and I'm excited. I think for those of us that watch the Community Shield, I think that Kolasinac, the left back that was signed on a free from Germany, looks to be a monster. Honestly, he looks very good, and that was a good bit of business from Wenger. He was in the Bundesliga Team of the Year last year. I don't know. Well, it should be interesting. I don't. So Sanchez already isn't playing Friday night against Leicester for an abdominal strain. Whether that's true or not, exactly. I don't know if that's true or not. I wouldn't be surprised if he left.
The Sanchez saga continues. It stemmed from last season with is Wenger going to sign the contract at the end of the season? Is Sanchez going to be there? Are both of them going to be there? It was leaning towards not both of them were going to be there. It was either one or the other. Sanchez's contract does run out at the end of next season. What does Arsene Wenger do this season with Sanchez, Paul, do you think? Just cash in on him, or is Wenger just going to go, right, I might as well just keep him for one season. I'm not going to have to rebuild in my final year of the contract, and I'll just use Sanchez and see what I can do this season.
I don't know. I mean, it seems kind of counterproductive, doesn't it? Knowing for a fact you can't plan for the future with this guy who, by all intents and purposes, they might lose their bottle in January and recoup some money for him anyway. He's not.
Probably half the value obviously, is what is if you don't sell him now. Last 6 months of the contract, the transfer value goes down.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So, you cut your nose off to spite your face? I mean, he obviously wants to leave. He'll go almost anywhere, it seems. I mean, it's a show of strength to a degree, but what's the value to Arsenal, really, when you could go out and buy someone that wants to play for the football club? I don't know. Sanchez obviously isn't interested. He's probably frustrated that he's not been able to leave. What does holding on to him essentially prove? Everybody likes to play the tough guy, but what do you really get out of it long term?
He wants to win the league this year. He wants to focus on the league solely this year. No.
Yeah, but that's garbage, isn't it?
I feel like Arsene Wenger is just going to play that second team out for the Europa League, and you can't really do that for the Champions League. You can probably get away with it for the Europa League, the Europa Cup, and just solely concentrate on this Premier League title this season with Sanchez. And
they'll have the same problems. They'll have the same problems this season. Nothing's going to change, is it? Really? Come on.
That's how I feel.
The problem is with Arsenal is that he can add to the squad, and he's brought Lacazette in, and I suppose you deserve some credit for that, because I'm sure he was. I don't think he's quite world class, but you've gone out and you've made an acquisition, but it's the offal that you've got in the rest of the club, isn't it? It's your Walcotts, it's your Elmenis, it's the Dross, it's your Mertesacker still starting at centre back. It's just the garbage that still exists there and is still given the chance year after year, and he's never ever going to cut the strings.
One thing.
I think this is going to be a sad year for Arsenal. The way you're telling this story, it sounds like it's going to be worse than last season.
Well, it's constantly sad, isn't it? It's constantly sad. I mean, last season was horrendous. In the newspapers, in the media, with the fans, it was horrendous, and it was all geared towards hopefully this guy's going to do the honourable thing. You've ended up in the Europa League, and he gets another 2-year deal. What do you say to that? Really,
They won the Community Shield.
Yeah, they did. Then they won the FA Cup last season, which again is great. But I just think you've got an obligation to move a football club forward, I think. And there just doesn't seem to be any appetite for that whatsoever. So another 2-year deal, and I think everybody. And it was kind of like last year when he got his new 2-year deal. No one was really up in arms and ripping the stadium up. They just sort of said, "Oh, bollocks!
Yeah,
here we go again." And it was just resigned to, "Here we go again, another 2 years," which is just a bummer,
Yeah, this could be a sad end to the last 2 years. It's going to go very quickly, I feel, the last 2 years of his contract. And
Quickly, or it's going to drag out like the last 10 years.
I personally don't see them hanging on to Sanchez. I think he's going to go Man City. And if that transfer does happen, I believe Manchester City will be overwhelming favourites for the title this season. The teams that have come up, we won't go into detail with them, but Newcastle obviously back up Rafa Benitez with Newcastle. Looks like there's rumours that he was going to leave this weekend because he hasn't got the funds that he's been promised from Mike Ashley.
Surprise.
Great owner up there in the northeast. Brighton Hove Albion.
Whoa.
Season.
Whoa. I want to talk about this.
All right. I'm going to... All right, okay.
Well, hold on. I want to say something for all of my American fans of the Premier League. Every year it starts and you're like, what the fuck name is this? Who the shit is going? All right, so these are all the weirdo teams that are in the league this year. They have to pretend you know about, but you never heard of before this year. It's AFC Bournemouth, which was there last year, right? Were they? Yeah. But still, they're still kind of new. And I'm going down here, Huddersfield Town. With the American manager, David Lang.
The German,
right? David Wagner.
German-American manager, yeah.
Well, he's American, guys. He's American. So Huddersfield.
Second American manager to grace the Premier League. Hopefully it goes better this time.
Huddersfield Town. Okay, the newest one that you're going to be like, what the fuck is this? Brighton and Hove Albion. I don't know. Albinian? Is that I don't know. It's a star constellation. I don't know. What is that? But Brighton and Hove. Is it Hove like Jay-Z?
Yeah, it's
Hove.
It's the Hove. It's down in Brighton. It's
Yeah, then Sam. If I bring this up to Sam, it's like, oh, you don't know Brighton and Hove? Come on, man. You're fucking Brighton.
Mike, it's the San Francisco of England, Brighton. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of true, actually.
Yeah.
That is true.
But it's in the southeast.
Hipster team.
Yeah.
Mm.
And basically every other team I'm comfortable with now, except for obviously Watford. Is Watford back in, or were they in last year too?
They're chilling.
They've been chilling for a while. And then my favorite, West Bromwich, which is West Bromwich. And then you got to throw another star constellation, Albion. What does that mean? What?
Albion. Yeah.
I'm from Albany, New York. What does that mean?
Not very little.
Does it mean village and
Albion?
I don't actually know.
We'll do some research. We'll send our research.
All right, so all I'm saying is all the American fans out there that you're into and you're trying to, don't feel bad about not knowing teams and stuff.
Right. Middlesbrough was a tough one for the Americans to pronounce, but they've fallen out of the Premier League. They've gone down. But Newcastle have come up. Brighton Hove Albion, second place in the Championship, and then Huddersfield Town beat Reading in the playoff final last season. David Wagner, favourite German-American manager, have come up. It's always hit and miss with these minnow clubs that come up. Everyone thought Bournemouth would go down instantly, even last season. They seem to just stick around and produce a lot of surprises. I feel Huddersfield are going to be the biggest surprise this season. They have this guy called Anthony Knockhart, who I've been following from Leicester for a few seasons.
He's on Brighton.
Brighton, sorry. Oh, I messed that one up. Brighton are going to be the surprise package. He was replaced by Mahrez from into Leicester, and he's an absolute machine.
Yeah, he was
Brighton.
the leading scorer in the championship.
Yeah,
last
player
year.
of the season. He was great. But I just want to go around here. Who do you think is going to win the league? And your surprise club of the season, let's say. And who do you think are just going to, piss away, suck this season?
I think Manchester City will win the league. I think the money has been invested, plus with Guardiola's vision, if you want to call it that, I expect them to win the league. And who knows, like Sam said, they might sign Sanchez. The window isn't closed yet. My biggest surprise, I honestly think it will be Huddersfield. Not just because of David Wagner, but, it's because of David Wagner.
Top 4, top 6, top 10?
Huddersfield?
Yeah.
Like 14th.
Okay, well, that's not a surprise.
We're not getting relegated. It's a rugby town with no history. But keep your eye on Danny Williams, American midfielder for Huddersfield. Looking forward to watching him play in the Premier League. He played on Reading for a while, so he's used to the English game, but never played in the Premiership, so it'll be exciting.
And who do you think are going to piss away?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I really don't, because they all suck. I don't know.
How about you, Mike?
What am I? A winner, a big loser, and a surprise?
No.
Is that what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right, well, winner, yeah. I think Paul was right, and I think that this is the 1 year that Tottenham actually gets it together and actually in a really tight race. I think that they actually win out at the end and like a really exciting. They got the best 11, and I think Dele Alli is going to go down as probably the best player in the league this year.
Okay.
All right, and what's that? Who's gonna be shit? Chelsea's gonna take a fall this year.
Okay.
Chelsea's gonna fall, and then I say Huddersfield. I'm going with Huddersfield down to make a little move too.
How about you, Paul?
Yeah, I think I'm with Mike on Chelsea. I think they're going to dip. I think they're going to struggle. I think they've weakened.
Fall out of the top 4?
I think they may. I think he's going to struggle. I think come October he'll be under pressure because I think they won't start as well as they'd like to. There's a couple of people they've brought in. I don't think Morata's going to work at all. So there's your goals gone. I think Diego Costa's already rocked the boat. I think Eden Hazard will be linked with other clubs pretty soonish. I think it's going to be very difficult for them. Winners, I think Man United will push hard. I
really?
do think that.
He's a secret United fan. He's always been a secret United fan.
I'm not a secret United fan. I just think, just no doubt Mourinho just knows what he's doing. They'll be much better.
You did predict this. I remember when Chelsea dominated when Abramovich came in and Ronaldo was coming up. And Chelsea won it like 2 years in a row. And United, I mean, I wouldn't say they were falling far behind like they have been recently. But one season when you just saw like Rooney coming into his own and Ronaldo come in and Scholes was still there, you were like, I think this is United's year. So I don't know if I agree with you today, but
no. Well, that's all right. I don't think so. For me, Man City brings Sanchez in. That's a game changer. I don't think we're talking about anybody else. That's fair. Regards to a surprise, just looking down the league. I'd like to say Everton, but I don't think they'll surprise anybody. I think we'll sit just where we are right now, 6th or 7th.
Yeah.
I think it's just such a challenge to make that jump into the top 4. There's just so much ground to make up. I think, let's have a look. I think surprisingly, Klopp will struggle this season.
Struggle.
Right.
I think he's going to cruise down that league quite comfortably. I'd like him to anyway.
Right.
Sam, what do you got?
I'm gonna go with. I'm predicting Man City to sign Sanchez in the next couple of weeks. Well, he's not playing this Friday because of what?
Abdominal strain.
Yeah, that's a mental strain. I think he's on his way out, and I think they're going to cash in on him. Arsenal. It either will be deadline day, or in the in the next week or so. But I think if that happens, Man City are going to win the league comfortably. I think Guardiola was finding his feet. last season. I think he's going to figure out he's strengthened his fullback, spend a lot of money, upgraded on the goalkeeper, Edison from Benfica, who looks pretty good. I think they're going to, I wouldn't say run away with it, but it's I would say it's more even now, maybe, because Man United have improved. The question is whether Coutinho will leave or not. I think Liverpool still be pretty good, even though I don't want them to be. But I think I'm going to go with Everton, getting close to that top 4 this season with the signings they've made. But I think, Chelsea will go down. So champions Man City, surprise Everton, and then Chelsea flopping this season.
Interesting.
I think Conte's just he's gonna lose the plot. Yeah. I think
Has the Premier League ever had this many superstar managers at one time? Mourinho, Guardiola, Klopp, Wenger. It's crazy how you guys have the top. Those are some of the top 5 managers' personalities in the game.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It is crazy.
I mean,
It is a who's who. You're absolutely right. Like this season is a who's who in managerial world football. Everybody, Yeah. I mean, guys like Ancelotti have just left. He's the only other sort of A-lister.
A lot of these managers, like Jose Mourinho said, the Spanish league was just boring. It was like the only games that mattered were the games in the top 4. Like any other game, he would go to Granada and know he's going to win like 4 or 5-0. He would know. He would predict that.
Yeah, he could play his reserve squad, and they probably still walk off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But we're looking forward to this season. 2017, 2018, 25 years the Premier League has been going. Thank you so much, Paul, for joining us. We appreciate it. Yeah, thanks, Mike, for joining us as well.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you can hit the piss in a minute. But,
oh God! All
right. First game Friday, the 11th of August. Arsenal versus Leicester City, 2:45 Eastern Time. That is 7:45 GMT time. But
don't forget about our fantasy league. Winner gets a $50 soccer.com gift card. As I said last time,
you doing fantasy, Paul?
Yeah, I asked you about this. You asked me about this the other day. And you said you'd already carved it up, and I couldn't compete.
Oh no, that was the draft. We did a draft.
So I can go into the league and add myself into the league.
Oh, you can add our league, yeah.
So I can still win that $50.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. Good. I've got my eyes on an Arsenal flag.
There you go. Our league code is 1714353 411295. That is pinned to the top of our Twitter profile.
Cool.
Even if you don't have a Twitter account, hop on there, and I still think you should still be able to see our tweets.
I'll link it to our Facebook account as well. So for all you non-millennials out there who still use Facebook, it'll be on there as well.
Bunch of old heads.
Yeah. No, I'm sitting here literally trying to write the number down as Connor said it. I'm not kidding. I'm like 17. Oh, it's in numlock. God damn it.
I'll read it again.
Punching in my notes.
It's 1714353 411295.
You got it, Mike.
Wait, 1714353. What was the last one? 14 was
411295.
295. All right, got it. I'm signing up.
Or you can listen to the
Sweet.
podcast and pause it.
All right, yeah.
All right, guys. Yeah, thanks again, Paul, for coming on the show, and we will hear from you next time. Cheers, guys.
Yes.
Thanks, Paul.
Go on, Evan.
Who do you think you are, Mr. Big Stuff? You're never gonna get my love.